1. I am a 61-year-old Latino male. I came to the US when I was 2. I was the second eldest of 8 siblings. As a first-generation immigrant from Nicaragua, I was subject to the extreme Catholic beliefs of my grandmother, who helped take care of me and my siblings. Whenever any of us caused trouble or talked back, my abuelita would threaten us with stories of God and the devil. Both had ledgers and took notes on everything we did. She said when the devil wrote down our sins, he would put something like a check mark down. Reyes, she called them, for every sin. And she told us when enough reyes were collected, the devil would come for you, reaching out from under the bed to drag you to hell. Nice thing to tell a bunch of little kids. Gotta love Catholic grandmothers. At age 8, I was hard-headed, little prickly, and full of myself as only an 8-year-old can be, and dismissed it all with disdain. On this particular day, I had yet again butted heads with my abuelita. I discovered years later that she really disliked me, which I guess explained why she was always on me about anything and everything I did. And she gave me her usual fire and brimstone, which I of course dismissed out of hand. I went into my bedroom, which I'd shared with my brothers and sisters. I slept in a bunk bed. I had the top bunk while one of my brothers slept on the bottom one. This room was rather large with a single window, which of course couldn't be opened, high up in one wall, which rendered it real dark and gloomy unless you turned on the light. I went to my bed and was about to climb into my bed when I felt something under the bed grab me around the ankles. I screamed. I don't remember exactly what I screamed, but I'm pretty sure it had the words shit and fuck in it, and it was torn out of me with the volume and violence of an erupting volcano. I felt a brief flare of pain as I quickly pulled away and jumped onto the ladder, my feet barely touching the steps as I launched myself onto the top bunk. I looked down from my perch, trying to see the monster that had grabbed me. My scream brought my mother running in to see what happened. I told her, "The devil just grabbed me from under the bed." "Don't be stupid," she told me angrily, "and stop listening to your abuelita's stories." After she left, I still wouldn't come down from the top bunk. I threw down a shoe. No effect. I climbed down the side of the bed carefully. I wanted to look under the bed, but this would require getting down low, which I was not about to do. So I reached down gingerly with one foot. A grey arm shot out and hooked the flesh of my foot. I screamed again, snatching my foot back and smacking my head on the bed frame as it shot into the back of the bottom bunk. I looked at my ankle. There were small beads of blood forming along a long scratch. It was then that my oldest sister came in, demanding to know what I was doing. "Something grabbed me from under the bed," I told her. She'd also heard the story, so she knew what I was afraid of. "Don't be stupid," she told me as she came over to the bed. All of a sudden, she screams and runs from the room. She stops at the door, peering from around the door frame. "Someone grabbed me," she screamed. "Who's under the bed?" "The devil," I said. She left the room and quickly returned brandishing a broom. She then swept it across the bottom of the bed. 2 grey arms flash out and grab the broom, and my sister screams again and throws the broom down. By now I was backed against the wall of the lower bunk, scared out of my mind. My sister comes back with her mother, who grabbed the broom, kneels down, and my mother pulls out the devil from under the bed. Turns out the devil was my sister's long-haired grey cat, appropriately named Kitty. So ended the incident of the devil under the bed. 2. I was staying at the casino and hotel in Biloxi, Mississippi, for a work conference. At these conferences, most people do more drinking and gambling than actual working. This particular evening, I was planning on doing both. I had an hour or so to kill before dinner, so I went to the ATM and pulled out my maximum daily amount, After losing just $100, I put the rest of the money in my money clip on my wallet and walked to meet a client at Mary Mahoney's for dinner. He brought along some co-workers of his, and after dinner, we all exchanged business cards. During the process, my money clip came undone, and all my money fell out of my wallet. Not knowing, I headed back to the hotel to start my big night of gambling. After finding the perfect seat at the blackjack table for my impending heater, I realized my money clip is empty and I've lost all my money without the thrill of actually losing it. I retraced my steps from the hotel to the restaurant many times before giving up. I'll hope someone who needed it found that money, I tell myself, trying to find the silver lining. Since I've already pulled out my daily limit from the ATM, I have no choice but to call it a night. I went up to my room, ordered pay-per-view and some room service. I like to sleep in my underwear and just my underwear, so I strip down, get in bed, eat my room service and watch my movie. Then my night goes from bad to worse. Movie ends. I decided it would be best to clean up some before bed. So I take my room service tray out into the hall and set it down. As I'm setting down the tray, the door closes and locks behind me. Shit! I frantically try to shake the handle, just praying the door will by some miracle open. No miracles. I then knock on a few of the doors of my neighbors, hoping I can use their phone to call the front desk. Again, I am in just my tidy whities. No one answered or came to the door, weirdly. Fear sets in. Realization happens. I'm going to have to go to the front desk and get another key. I start walking, jogging to the elevator. I pass a man who just looks at me and doesn't even acknowledge I'm jogging in my underwear. Bless you, I think. I get in the elevator. As the elevator starts going down, I realize that I'm going to have to walk through the entire casino to get to the front desk. My luck continues. Elevator opens to a group of about 20 to 25 middle-aged women on a bachelorette party. This is quite possibly the worst thing that could have happened to me. Not only are all these women hooting and hollering at me in my underwear, everyone in the casino is now curious as to what is causing the commotion. I make my way through them, feeling the warm eyes of everyone as I walk, looking very much like Walter White, Season 1. One of the security guards has noticed all of this, and decides that he thinks I'm just some punk young adult, trying to create a scene. He comes up behind me and immediately puts me in handcuffs. I didn't even get a word out of my mouth beforehand. Can this get worse? Please show up. Cops are now talking with security guard about what has happened. All the while, I'm now sitting in my underwear, handcuffed in the middle of the casino floor. I still have not even gotten to tell anyone that I'm simply locked out of my room and extremely embarrassed. Finally, the cops start asking me what in the hell I'm thinking. I proceed to tell them everything that has just happened, and that I'm actually staying at the hotel. Once they realized that this was simply a mistake and not me just being an asshole running around in my underwear, they uncuffed me. The security guard then called the front desk and confirmed my information, and told me to go wait by my room and they would send someone up with the key. I went back to my room and was sitting in my underwear by the door when a girl from the hotel walked up and said, "Yep, you're clearly the guy I'm here to help." Yes, I am. It was sorta like that dream where you wake up in class in nothing but your underwear. Except it was a casino, and it was real. 3. It was the typical college kid still living at home summer. I worked part-time teaching swim lessons 3 days a week. I hung out with the old high school group, took weekend trips to see friends I met during college. Nothing outside of the norm. My parents weren't strict by any stretch of the imagination. If you have a friend with the cool parents, I'd fall into that category. Dad never said no to sharing a beer with me. I could have a get-together anytime I wanted. I didn't have a curfew. Leaving the house at 11 p.m. and coming home after midnight was almost the norm. They didn't lose much sleep as long as they knew I was safe. Maybe a month or so into summer vacation, they decided to take a parents-only trip to the mountains to treat themselves. They told me where they would be staying, how long their reservation was for, when they would be home, everything I would need to know. Mom even threw in the usual, "Fire extinguisher is under the sink." "Thanks, Mom. I know how to cook Kraft and ramen noodles, thank you." Mind you, Project X had come out a few months before this. My opportunity was simply too good to pass up. I had the whole thing planned before they left. I wanted a small blacklight party with beer pong, flip cup, and of course a beer funnel. What party is complete without it? My sister, the real MVP, bought us half-gallon after half-gallon of cheap vodka and Fireball. I kept the invite list under 20, knew everyone that was coming minus 2 or 3. I even convinced everyone to carpool. At the time, our house was in the back of a small neighborhood, so 15 cars parked on the street would have been an invitation to the cops. I put trash bags over all the windows so no one could see in. I even told people to come through the back door instead of the front. I had everything planned. Friday night came and people started showing up around 9:30ish. It goes like your typical teenage get-together for a while. I kept people in the kitchen to try to keep an eye on things. It was all going great until Kim yells, "Guys, I bought some glow paint." One thing I learned that night is drunk people love to paint. It was everywhere. Eric thought it would be funny to jump and put green handprints on the ceiling. No need to panic. Sober me can deal with that in the morning. At this point, we're all drunk, half naked, and covered in neon finger paint. The quiet, controlled 15-person party had broken containment and spread outside. In a matter of minutes, 2 friends, Walker and Texas Ranger, had to be split up because they were fighting over a girl. Another friend, Timmy, was throwing up in the street. The to-do list for sober me continues to grow. I finally corral the drunken herd back into the house. Jennifer decides it's a good time to make some macaroni and cheese for everyone, right before she starts a game of flip cup. Flash forward a few games and we smell something burning. As you can guess, Jen forgot she turned on the stove. Shout out to Mom for telling me where the fire extinguisher was. At this point I've had enough. It's about 2:30, 3. I'm tired. Apparently the party continued. When I wake up the next morning, I walk downstairs to what looks like a kindergarten room gone rogue. Paint is everywhere. Small fluorescent green, pink, orange, blue, and yellow flakes were in every corner. Thanks, drunk me and whoever let Bill sleep on Dad's leather couch without a shirt on. I began frantically cleaning, but there is only so much one person can do. I do my best to scrub the ceilings, floors, walls, carpets, anything that came in contact with paint. After a 12-hour cleaning marathon, Mom and Dad arrive. As they walk through the house, they immediately ask me what happened. Apparently, a college kid finger painting in the house wasn't a believable lie. After finding boxes for 5-foot blacklights, an empty tube of paint in one of Mom's potted plants, masking tape around the window panes, and more neon paint through the house and on my car, I come clean. They grounded me for the summer and made me pay to get the house cleaned. I had to get a second job to pay for a new couch. To this day, they say they find small paint chips and masking tape around the house. 4. The year was 1990. I was a college freshman about to begin my first semester at Texas A&M University. Going to A&M straight out of high school was a fuck up in its own right. But that is not the focus of this story. I just left behind the first girl I had fallen in love with, so I was in a very sad state. I wasn't, and still am not, very outgoing, and have always had a hard time making friends. I was heartbroken and dejected. However, I somehow managed to become very good friends with the apartment manager. I think he probably took pity on me. He was this very zen fellow who believed in the mystical power of pyramids. Every apartment building had its own little pyramid and crystal focus resting on the roof. Pretty cool stuff to an 18-year-old. I stopped by several times during the week just to speak with him and the apartment staff, as they were the only people I really knew at all. It was during this time that he saw fit to bestow on me the privilege of having my very own key to the apartment's weight room. Up until that point, I had been suffering from depression and insomnia, so I was failing my classes and generally feeling miserable. I decided that the best way to make myself feel better was to utilize the weight room. After all, since I now had a key, I could go any time after it was closed to the other renters and have it all to myself. What could possibly go wrong? Cue the fuck up. I entered the weight room late one night and decided to hit the iron hard. Up until that point, I hadn't ever really worked out. How hard could it be? I started on the bench press and did several reps, then worked my way around the room using the rest of the equipment. After finishing with the other weights, I was tired and wanted to have another go at the bench press, just to see how much I could really bench. I stacked on the extra weights, lifted the bar, lowered it to my chest, and then... nothing. I couldn't budge it. I strained against the iron bar, but to no avail. To make matters worse, it was starting to dig into my ribcage. This was not good. I had worn out what little strength I had working my way around the room, and now I was slowly being crushed by my own foolishness. For some reason, my 18-year-old self found this very humorous, and I started laughing, which did not help matters at all. The bar rolled from over my chest to over my stomach, a decidedly much less firm area of my body. So now I was laughing while having my guts squashed. Wonderful. I had tried lifting just one side of the bar to be able to slide out from under it, but it wasn't having any of that. It had me in its clutches and wouldn't let go. I doubt Henry Rollins has ever found himself in this predicament. I was eventually able to free myself by rocking the bar back and forth, until it had enough momentum to slip to one side and slide onto the floor. I remained on the bench for probably another 5 minutes or so, enjoying my newly found freedom. No pain, no gain, right? Once I had recovered enough to move about, I removed the weights from the bar and placed it back onto the bench press to await its next victim. I then left the weight room. This was my first and last attempt at pumping iron. Moral of the story, always lift with a buddy if you're going for maximum weight. Oh, and don't jump right into a major university right out of high school, unless you have developed good study habits. Those places will just chew you up and spit you out. 5. I got home from exercising and stopped for my weekly Taco Bell. The order was the same exact thing I always get: 2 bean burritos and a Crunch Wrap Supreme. But substitute real cheese for the cheese that isn't mine, substitute spicy ranch for sour cream, and add beans in addition to the beef. That information wasn't necessary, but I want you to have all the information about my evening. I grab my water and head over to my desk to eat and click on blue links. First up, a bean burrito. I unwrap the burrito, pour some hot sauce onto the wrapper for optimal dipping, and go to town. About the hot sauce. I make hot sauce for a living. I am frequently trying new recipes and ingredients, and I try every batch I produce multiple times. This has left me with a tongue that is fairly immune to capsaicin, and it takes a lot of heat to make me sweat. The result of heat immunity is I make my own hot sauce for my personal use that is hotter than what I sell to the public. I have a little glass flask with the rubber swing stopper filled with my stash of hot sauce. Back to the story. After I finish my first burrito, I ate my Crunch Wrap. They are rarely made right. I don't think Taco Bell employees take that much pride in creating fast food masterpieces, as I took when working flipping burgers. My burgers were legit. This time all the lettuce and tomato were on one side. At least they used both beef and beans, though. Time for the final burrito. I unwrap the burrito on my lap and grab my flask of hot sauce. I remembered that I forgot to shake it before I used it last time, so I thought I would do that to make sure I could have maximum burrito enjoyment. The cap was resting on top of the bottle, so I gave it the old side to side. After 2 fast shakes, I felt moisture on my arm and knew I'd done goofed. I looked down and sauce is all over my hands and the bottle. My burrito shielded my lap, but splatters were everywhere. I look on my right, and sauce is on my wall and computer. I look on my left, and sauce along the floor. It is on my keyboard. It is on my headphones, my mousepad, my toolkit, everywhere. During that second shake, a rainbow eruption of Reaper's ghost chilies and habaneros sprayed across all the things. I set my burrito down, I go get some wet paper towels, and I get to cleaning. It takes several wipes to get everything up and clean, and about 10 minutes. In the process of cleaning, I think I got my hands more covered in sauce than I expected. My burrito is cold at this point, and my spirits are down. So I toss it all in the trash. I wash my hands when I toss the towels, burrito and wrappers so that I feel safe going to the bathroom before I shower. I shampooed in the shower and then started to wash my face. 2 more soaps on my hands, making 3 total washings, for those keeping track. When my right contact started to fall out. I could feel the contact under my eyelid, and it took some finagling, but it popped out onto my finger. I'm still in the shower, so it wasn't really a good time to put it back in. With one contact still in, I go back and forth, and handle the contact a bunch before deciding it isn't inside out anymore. I put it on my tongue for some lubrication before I reinstall it. It tastes like contact. I licked my fingers as well to get them lubed up before the procedure. Remember how I said that my tongue tastes nothing? I have built up years of immunity frying my taste buds. Had any normal person had any contact and fingers in their mouth, they would have been on high alert to stay away from touching their eyeballs. I washed my hands 3 times, and my tongue was silent. I didn't think that I would be in trouble. I had Ghost, Reaper, Habanero, Scotch bonnet oil all over my fingers, which transferred to my contact, and were now trapped in full suction contact with my iris. It did not feel good. I finished the shower after sitting in the water with my eyes squeezed tight, trying to make as many tears come as possible to flush my system. After the shower, I went back to click some blue links, and my right monitor is covered in sauce that is now dried on, and I didn't see it earlier. Cool. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 5 True Embarrassing Stories, episode 38. Thanks very much to everyone who allowed me to use their stories in this video, and also special thanks to the subscribers who were good enough to send stories in to me. Okie dokie, I've actually managed to find something interesting for Sunday. What we're going to have is neckbeards in the wild. Found some interesting stories of those... well, they're the kind of people you'd feel sorry for if they weren't such, antagonistic, entitled, misogynistic douchebags. If they weren't that, you'd feel sorry for them. And I've got to be honest, I've already recorded it, actually, and I had a pretty fun time doing it. Got to break out my comic book guy voice. Okay, and with that I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.